Okay, so time to do some testing on this xTOOL D1. I'm going to show you a few things coming up. Hi, I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and on this xTOOL D1 I'm going to run a few tests on it here and see how it performs. Going to be a hodgepodge of things. I've shot these video portions in different sections at different times as I've done this testing. But going to kind of show you what I found here and what I think of this so far. Okay, one thing here software-wise, the proprietary software was originally made for this laser was called LaserBox. I prefer to use Lightburn. As I mentioned in my build video, I wanted to wait to get this until it was adapted to Lightburn, which it is now. And there's a configuration file for that, and I showed how to put that in the little setup video I did with the software. So one thing I have found though is when you import one of my projects from one of my other lasers and open it up in Lightburn for the xTOOL D1, it's backwards and upside down. So I have to flip it and mirror it to get it to look correct on the screen. Not a big deal, you just got to remember to do that or you'll have your graphics upside down and backwards. I suppose it's fine if you're looking in a mirror and standing on your head, but most people don't do that. So one of the other things I wanted to do, and I have one burning right now, is a laser tile test. I did jump the gun here, as you'll see, and engrave a tile just to see how it would come out before I did the burn test. The burn test, it's called the Nicky Norton white tile test, and I'll get into this here later. It's supposed to look like this when it's done. This was not from this laser. The first one I ran on this laser came out, I mean, just all kinds of funky. So I am running it again. I don't know why it did all this offset, and I mean the graphics are, I should say, the lettering and numbers are not in the right place, but if I'm looking at the screen, it is in the right place. Don't know the cause for that. Running another one to see what will happen. If I see that it's going crazy too, I'll just stop it. I need to mention here that I was not provided this laser for free. I bought this. I am not being compensated in any way, shape, or form. So all my opinions are obviously my own and they're completely unbiased. Just wanted to make that clear right up because a lot of the reviews you will see with this laser, Make Block sent the laser to them and says, hey, you know, do a review on it. And yes, you're supposed to be unbiased. And I have done that type of thing with a couple other products, but not this. Here's my second attempt at doing the burn test for tiles. And again, the first one came out just like weird. I don't know why it's all skewed like that. Trying it again. Okay, we're getting close to being done, and this time it looks like it burned it correctly. I don't know what happened that first time. Okay, and there we have it. I'll take this and strip the paint off of it and see what we got. Okay, this one turned out much better, as you can see there. So the goal of this is to pick the speed and power that gives you the best graphic, best black color when you're engraving ceramic tiles. And in this case, I have a few choices. 1500 millimeters per minute at 50% power would be very good, as with 60% power at 1750 millimeters per minute. 2000 millimeters per minute at 60% would also give a pretty decent engraving. And you could also go back to 500 millimeters per minute at 20% power. You have a lot of choices. Of course, I'm looking to be able to do this as quickly as possible because, you know, a lot of times I'll get an order for a whole bunch of these if they're coasters, or in one case 100 of them for wall tiles. And it takes a while to crank those out. Okay, so I'm going to do one of our popular tiles, commonly used for coasters, of a pirate skull, the hat. And it normally takes 14 minutes to engrave on my SaneSmart or on the anvil, and I'm going to do it on this here, and I put the settings in, and it should do it in 3 minutes. And there it is. I'll take this off and get the paint off of there. We'll see how it looks. So how did it turn out? There it is right there. This is one of our popular designs people use for coasters. So very pleased with the detail on it. It's got a nice fine lines. The shading is excellent. So this here is working out perfect for this. It's very quiet. And we'll give it that. The shield on it is nice. My Atom Stack and my Ortour both have the shields around the laser beam, so if you happen to glance at it without glasses on, it won't hurt you. If I do need to look at this and study it carefully, I will put my laser goggles on. No sense in taking a chance damaging my eyes. So the test engraving I'm doing right here now is I'm actually doing one of our signs, one of those things we sell, and I sped it up to see how fast it could go. I think I could actually get even more speed out of this, 4,000 millimeters per minute right now, and we're going to leave it at that till this sign is done, and then I may do some experimenting on some scrap blanks, see just how fast I can do this. There comes a time when I need to be able to really crank these out, and hence that's why I picked up another laser. This and the tiles we do. I did mount this on a base, and I did put a grid and engraved a grid on a 1/2" MDF, which is screwed to the base, and the laser is secured to the base by some little 3D printed legs in the corners. And yeah, you can do it with 2, but I did it with 4. So if little goes a long way, a lot will go a lot further. That's what I say. So it's very sturdy, it's rigid. I did have one that I had started on, and I had the laser hanging over the edge of my table here, and I bumped it when I was walking by, and that moved everything, so that one got spoiled. Now I've got it shoved up here so that won't happen. It is getting smoky in here. I'm going to have to do something about that. Normally we have this vented, but it's like 10 degrees outside. I'm not going to open the overhead door, so just to do these tests here, I'll put up with the smoke. Otherwise, we usually exhaust these out a window. So that's why it looks kind of foggy in here. Well, I'm going to let this keep running and let this finish. I'll let you see what the finished product is. One of the things I really don't like is how this cable tends to get into the work area. When this was engraving the grid, I had to really keep an eye on this. The orange shield did push it out of the way, but I had to watch it real close so that it didn't get caught on it or snagged on it or get underneath. Future here, I'm going to have to come up with something to do with that that's a better solution. I really don't like that part of the design, and for the money that this thing cost, I think they could have incorporated some type of drag chain for that. This will give you a good close-up view of the scorching and the soot there. Some of that will blow off. I'm going to have to lightly sand that, then hit it with an air hose before we put the finish on it. But otherwise, I'm happy with the way this is coming out. It is engraving much quicker than I can do with my other lasers, unless I crank the power way up on them, and I really hate to do that. Okay, I'm doing this in Lightburn. That's my software of choice. I suppose I could try to import these into LaserBox, but more familiar with Lightburn. One thing I did notice, so if I open one of my existing files in Lightburn and have it set for this xTOOL D1 laser, all my engravings are backwards and upside down. And I don't really know the reason for that. It's not hard to flip them, but it's just something you got to remember, or it will actually engrave backwards and upside down. And I certainly don't want that. Yeah, we're getting close to getting this one here completed. Looks like it's at 94%, so a few more minutes and this one will be done. I'll take it out, let you have a look at it, and then I'll show it to you after I do a little light sanding on it. Well, the more I look at this, an air assist is definitely going to be in the works for this. I added that to my other 2 lasers, the Atom Stack A5 and the Ortour Pro, and it made a world of difference. Very, very little sanding ever had to be done after we did a sign. So, looking at this, and I'll show you here in just a second, we are at, we're done. So this is what I have right now. I'm going to go take it over and do a little bit of sanding, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, I did a little sanding on it here, and this is what the finished product looks like. And it didn't take much to sand it, it's just one more step. One of the nice things about doing engraving on Western red cedar is you get a nice black color, and I like that. You don't have to treat the wood or anything like you would with birch or pine. You can treat that stuff with borax and stuff first and get a darker color, but this here you just engrave and go. Plus, these are usable outdoors because Western red cedar is highly rot resistant, it's weather resistant, and we do coat these with spar varnish before we sell them. So far, everything's looking real good. I picked this particular tile because it has a place where there's quite a bit of fill. Then it has a lot of fine lines, and I wanted to see how well this did with those fine lines. From work I did with the test on the piece of wood, the fine lines are extremely fine and accurate. So I wanted to make sure that I would have the same thing with my tiles. And so far this is looking real good. And incidentally, you'll notice I have my goggles on because I'm looking at the laser. When I'm not looking at the laser, like I'm looking at the camera here and the laser's running down here, I know it's running, I don't look at it. Something to remember, even though it has that shield on it, if you're going to look at it, safety glasses or safety goggles. And again, the orange ones are the correct color for a blue laser. The green ones and the red ones and the dark green and light green, and yeah, they're close, but that's not exactly the right color for a blue laser. If you look at a color chart or talk to a ophthalmologist, that's an eye specialist, they'll tell you about colors and lasers, and you want the opposite color. So orange is the opposite of blue if you look at a color chart. I did a little video on that here a while back, you can check out if you like. Now we'll let this keep engraving and we'll see what it turns out. Okay, right here is where it's getting into some of those fine lines and detail. It's not only fine lines, but it has fine fill. And this is what I really wanted to see, how well this performed. This is how it looks before I strip it. So now I'll go do a little stripping. That didn't sound right. I'm going to go take the paint off this tile. Okay, so this is how it looks. Extremely fine detail. I'm very happy with it. And I like the way this turned out. Tile for one of the coasters we sell, Moon and Star. It's got a lot of fine detail, and I'm very pleased with it. And this is much, much quicker than with any of the other 3018 lasers, and it's even faster than the Atom Stack or the Orateur. So that's a big plus. Okay, and if you're interested in how I do these tiles, I know there's a lot of videos out there about how everybody does what they call the Nicky Norton white tile method. And no, you don't necessarily have to use white paint either. But if you'd like to see how I do it, I could make a video on that. I don't want to be too redundant with what everybody else has done. My systems are a little bit different because I do it more in a production standpoint. In fact, I had one customer bought 100 of the same tiles, not this one, actually it was Skeleton Head, to put in his bathroom. Whatever, okay. Maybe it's in a bar or something, I don't know, but whatever. This is permanent. It does not wash off, does not rub off. Yeah, you could use it for wall tiles. I don't see why not. As I said though, if you'd like to see how I do these, leave a little something down in the comment section and maybe I'll pop a video up on exactly how I do these. I did do one earlier on the production and how I strip these tiles, but I haven't done anything in how I produce them. So if you'd like to see some, let me know. Got one more little test I want to do with this one, and that is a graphic on cedar. This is just a piece of Western red cedar here. It's 5.5 by 7, and I'm going to put my shop logo on it in grayscale, and we'll see how well that comes out. Okay, we'll frame this first. Yeah, I'm a little bit off on the width of the height there, but we're not printing all the way down to the end here, engraving all the way down to the end. I've got a frame around it, so let's start this. Estimated time is 33 minutes and 57 seconds. And of course it's making smoke because it is cedar. but I like the way cedar engraves. So we'll let this go, and I'll do some periodic updates on it. I'm not going to record the entire 33 minutes of this. Okay, and looking at this as it's burning, and it's about a third of the way through, I probably should have done a test grid first on this piece of wood so I could get my settings a little closer, because my graphics are not coming out quite like I'd like them to. But I'm going to let it complete. It's running at 6,000 millimeters per minute with a maximum power of 80 and a minimum power of 5. Okay, as we're getting close to the end here, you can see that sometimes things don't turn out quite like you thought they were going to. I'm not going to blame the wood on this. It is a fairly decent piece of cedar. This is a scrap, but it's still has a fairly uniform color. The engraving is good, but I think I need to do a little bit of work on the settings on this. As I said, I should have done a burn test first on a piece of this with this laser. I was trying to kind of cut the settings in half from what I do with my other lasers, since this is twice the power, and it didn't work out quite right. This is not something that I normally do with my lasers, but I just kind of wanted to try this out and see how it would do. I've done it on a couple of the other lasers I have just to experiment with it. It's not something we market or sell. It's just something to kind of play with a little bit. I said this did not turn out the way I really would have liked it to, but it is doing a good job with the lines being very accurate and very crisp. I may try this on a tile here later on with a photograph just to kind of see how that comes out. I've done a couple of those for people in the family. It's not, again, not something that we sell, but it's just something to play with. It looks like this here is just about done. Okay, so there's the finished graphic. As I said, I need to do some work with settings, but overall the graphics are fine. It just needs a little update on the settings. Okay, and the last test I'm going to do is on this piece of 1/4-inch plywood that's about 5 millimeters. I'm going to cut a heart out of it at 100% power at 5 millimeters per second in 3 passes. We'll see how this does. And that's what happens when things go awry, and I don't know why I did that. We'll reset things here and start over. That's the second time I've had something like that happen. Try to get this squared up in here a little bit. If you're wondering what that's sitting on, it's a Dollar Tree cookie sheet because I don't want to ruin my grid board underneath. Then you burn through. So we'll do a little framing here and see what it does this time. Well, that's what I did last time and you saw what happened. Well, let's start it and see what happens this time. Judging by the blue light I see reflecting off the bottom of that cookie sheet below it, looks like 2 passes would have done this. If the piece falls out after 2 passes, I'll stop it, but otherwise I'll let it go for the 3 passes. Yep, 2 passes did it. Okay, I'm going to do one more cut here, this time a star. And we're going to do this one in 2 passes. 100% power, 5 millimeters per second. is. So there was my cut test. And if you look at the back side of this, because I had it elevated on top of that this Dollar Tree $1.25 cookie sheet, I have no scorching on the back. I do have a little bit of scorching in the front. I think once I get air assist added to this, that'll go away. As I said, I don't normally do cutting on my lasers. I do engraving with mostly tile and wood. Happy with the way these turned out. Very happy with the way these turned out. Gives me some ideas for a couple other things, and I'm kind of in partnership with my granddaughter on some craft projects with her business. So maybe this is something she can use, and we can integrate some of this stuff into her end of the business. So that's just a little demonstration of the cutting. There again, it's 1/4 inch oak plywood. This is not as soft and easy to cut as like birch plywood or basswood. So give you a couple of examples. Very smooth cuts, very, very good. So I will give a great thumbs up on cutting on this laser. I've done a little bit of experimental cutting with my other ones. If I wanted to do 1/4 inch plywood clean like this, it doesn't happen. This one does it. So we get down to the conclusion, what do I think of this laser? Well, I like it. It's well built. It's got a couple of what I would call flaws. One, especially being that cable down there that just drags around, and I really need to come up with a better solution for that. I know that some other people have done drag chains and mounted them to the side of enclosures. I haven't built an enclosure for this yet. That's one option. Trying to look at an option where I can actually get the drag chain mounted onto the side of the laser, so that if I decide to raise this to use a rotary, I won't have that drag chain permanently affixed to something else. But I'll work that out here in the future. So how does it perform? Well, this is that sign I did, and it's excellent. And the tile I did came out excellent. I am very pleased with it. I'm pleased with the performance of it. I will be adding an air assist to it here in the very near future. I just need to get the 3D part printed. That is available on Thingiverse. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not putting a link to it. That'll be a subject of another video. It's adding this air assist and exactly how I do it. So overall, yes, I like the machine. It's well built. The cons, that cable, that is really not a good thing there. And the other thing is, I wish it had limit switches so you could home it, and home it in the left front corner where all my other lasers home. But I can work around that. If there was some way to add limit switches to this, and I'll have to do some investigating, I will probably do that, because I actually prefer the homing function. As far as cutting, I don't do a lot of cutting, but I did a little bit of experimenting, as you can see here. And this is what happens when you forget that it starts at the upper left corner. You end up off the wood. So I'm glad I caught that. It was standing right here because this was sitting on a just on another piece of wood, and it would have gone over and actually got onto a piece of cardboard, and that would have not have been a good thing. I would have had a little fire going on. So when you're doing cutting in that, it's always good to keep an eye on your laser and monitor it. And from a safety standpoint, aside from the goggles and stuff, one of those inexpensive fire extinguishers you buy for your kitchen or your shop or your boat or whatever, have one of those close by in your shop, close by to your lasers, just in case something goes wrong. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Otherwise, I'm Roger in the shop, xTOOL D1 Laser. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.